By the time you hit your 60th birthday, your heart will have beaten over 2 billion times. I mean, just pause and think about that number for a second. 2 billion. It's pumping 5 liters of blood every single minute, pushing it through 60,000 miles of blood vessels, making sure oxygen gets to literally every single cell in your body. And it's done all of this without a single break, without a single rest, and entirely behind the scenes. It's an absolute biological masterpiece. But, despite being incredibly resilient, it isn't completely immune to the aging process.
Which brings us to, honestly, the most important question you could possibly ask about your cardiovascular health. Is your heart actually older than you are? Look, while the heart is an absolute workhorse, the rate at which our cardiovascular system ages varies wildly from person to person. Some folks, they age right in step with the calendar. But for a whole lot of others, their internal clock is ticking much, much faster.
Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on the 5 concrete signs that your heart is aging prematurely after 60. But don't worry, we're not just bringing bad news. We're also going to cover the exact evidence-based protocols you need to actively reverse it. We're going to decode the signals your body is sending you right now so you can grab the wheel and take control of your cardiovascular destiny through specific fitness, diet, and lifestyle protocols.
Here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, the biological clock. Number 2, assessing fitness. Number 3, internal warning signs. Number 4, the exercise protocol. And number 5, diet, lifestyle, and heat.
All right, starting off with section 1, the biological clock, or age versus reality. It is entirely possible, and honestly pretty common, for 2 people of the exact same chronological age to have cardiovascular systems that are literally 15 to 20 years apart in biological age. Why? Because this huge divergence is driven mostly by lifestyle, not your genetics. Think about it. You could have 2 60-year-olds standing side by side. One has the heart and blood vessels of a healthy 50-year-old, while the other's heart is showing the structural wear and tear of an 80-year-old. So while your chronological age is permanently locked in, your biological age is highly, highly fluid.
Moving right into section 2, assessing fitness, we need to look at the ultimate metric.
And that metric, it's your VO2 max. Basically, this is the absolute maximum rate of oxygen consumption your body can achieve during really hard maximal aerobic exercise. It's essentially a comprehensive snapshot of your heart, your lungs, your blood, and your muscles all working perfectly together. Now, with normal aging, your VO2 max drops by about 1% every year after age 25. But here's the catch. Things like physical inactivity, obesity, and chronic inflammation, they dramatically accelerate that decline. If your VO2 max is dropping faster than that 1% a year, well, that's our first glaring red flag that your heart is aging way too fast.
And this brilliantly illustrates why you don't even need some fancy, expensive sports lab to figure this out. You can easily do some maximal tests on your own, like the Rockport walking test or the Cooper 12-minute run test, and get a highly accurate estimate of your cardiovascular fitness. Now, you might be wondering, why is knowing this so absolutely crucial? Well, a massive study looking at over 122,000 patients found that people in the lowest fitness tier have a mortality risk 4 times higher than folks in the highest tier. Let that sink in for a second. That's a significantly bigger risk factor than smoking, diabetes, or even having established coronary artery disease.
Let's turn to section 3, internal warning signs, and what your body is desperately trying to tell you.
That brings us to sign number 2, a resting heart rate that is consistently sitting over 80 beats per minute. For a healthy adult over 60, that resting heart rate should really sit somewhere between 50 and 70 beats per minute. When it creeps up over 80, it's telling you your heart is working way harder than it should just to keep the basic lights on, so to speak. In fact, epidemiological studies show us something scary. For every 10 beats per minute your resting heart rate sits above 60, your all-cause mortality jumps by 9 to 10%.
And closely tied to that is heart rate variability, or HRV. This is the tiny beat-to-beat variation in time between your heartbeats. A high HRV is great. It means your autonomic nervous system is flexible, balanced, and ready for anything. A low HRV, on the other hand, indicates inflexible sympathetic dominance. Basically, it means your body is stuck in a chronic, damaging fight-or-flight stress state. And that right there is a massive driver of accelerated aging. But the really good news? Modern wearables, like Oura Rings, Apple Watches, or Whoop straps, let you easily track this powerful little biomarker every single day.
Sign number 3 is a widening pulse pressure. You can figure this out super easily by taking your systolic blood pressure, that's the top number, and subtracting your diastolic, the bottom number. You see, young, healthy arteries are elastic, right? They stretch and recoil to sort of buffer the surge of blood. But as they age, they get stiff. So if your pulse pressure is consistently sitting above 60 millimeters of mercury, let's say your blood pressure is 150 over 80, that's a sign your arteries have lost their elasticity. They're just sending these destructive, unbuffered pressure waves straight into vulnerable downstream organs, like your brain and your kidneys.
Moving right along, sign number 4 takes us from the clinical data straight into everyday reality, exertional symptoms. If things that used to be completely effortless, maybe climbing a flight of stairs, carrying heavy bags from the grocery store, or even just playing with your grandkids, if they suddenly cause you significant breathlessness, chest tightness, or this extreme heaviness in your legs, your cardiovascular functional capacity is declining too fast. In medical terms, moving from a New York Heart Association Class I to Class II functional capacity means you absolutely need an immediate checkup. You want to rule out conditions like heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, which is where the heart muscle actually gets too stiff to fill up properly.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just the sheer staggering scale of sign number 5. Nearly 40% of Americans over the age of 60 have metabolic syndrome. This is a super dangerous clustering of risk factors. We're talking abdominal obesity, elevated blood pressure, high blood sugar, and a poor cholesterol profile. When you combine all that with elevated high-sensitivity C-reactive protein, or hsCRP, which is just a marker for systemic inflammation, it creates a cardiovascular risk burden that is far deadlier than any single risk factor on its own. Honestly, it is the ultimate red flashing light of accelerated biological aging.
Okay, so how do we fix it? Section 4, the exercise protocol, or as I like to call it, turning back time. First, consider the immense power of high-intensity interval training, or HIIT. By alternating brief periods of near maximal effort with periods of recovery, you get the most profound effect on your VO2 max out of pretty much any exercise modality out there. Older adults who do HIIT for just 12 to 16 weeks can literally see their VO2 max shoot up by 15 to 20%. When you look at that in terms of your cardiovascular biological age, that is a literal equivalent of turning back the clock by 5 to 10 full years, and that's just in a few short months.
But you shouldn't just do HIIT all the time. You really need a strong foundation. And that foundation is Zone 2 training. This is sustained aerobic exercise at a pace where you could comfortably hold a conversation with someone next to you. Zone 2 training does something truly magical. It specifically enhances the mitochondrial density and efficiency in your heart and skeletal muscles. When you combine this steady Zone 2 training to build up your mitochondrial engine with those periodic HIIT sessions to push up your VO2 max ceiling, that right there is the absolute gold standard evidence-based exercise prescription for older adults.
And finally, Section 5, diet, lifestyle, and heat for the complete reversal.
When it comes to diet, so the crucial point is really the contrast here. We all know the Mediterranean diet. Loads of olive oil, omega-3 rich fish, legumes is incredibly anti-inflammatory. But listen, it's not just what you eat, it's how you cook it. Switching from dry heat cooking, like grilling and frying, over the moist heat methods like steaming or slow cooking drastically reduces the formation of advanced glycation end products. These are nasty little compounds that literally stiffen up your arteries. On top of that, eating foods packed with dietary nitrates, like beetroot and leafy greens, tells your body to produce nitric oxide, and that dilates your blood vessels and significantly improves your overall arterial function.
And then there is the incredible, almost magical power of heat exposure. Specifically, we're talking about the Finnish sauna protocol. The steps are beautifully simple and highly accessible. You do 3 to 4 sessions a week, crank the temperature to between 174 and 212 degrees Fahrenheit, and stay in for 15 to 20 minutes per session. If you methodically follow this protocol, you expose your body to positive heat stress that actually improves arterial compliance, boosts your cardiac output, and profoundly balances out that autonomic nervous system we were talking about earlier. Let's move to this data and see how this builds into something amazing. How does this translate to real-world survival? A staggering 63%. Folks who are frequent sauna users and followed that exact protocol saw a 63% reduction in sudden cardiac death compared to infrequent users. No joke, it is quite literally one of the most remarkable scientifically proven lifestyle interventions for cardiovascular longevity ever recorded in human history. I really want to leave you with this critical thought. These signs we've talked about today, they're not fixed biological destinies. They are modifiable biomarkers. A declining VO2 max, arterial stiffness, metabolic syndrome, these are absolutely not death sentences. They are simply signals. And as we've seen throughout this explainer, Your cardiovascular system retains a remarkable, miraculous capacity to heal and to actually grow younger when you apply the right interventions. You have the agency right now to extend both the length and the quality of your cardiovascular life.
So, I'll leave you with this final question to think about. Which of these protocols are you going to start today to give your heart a younger tomorrow? Will it be figuring out your VO2 max? Maybe swapping out the frying pan for a steamer? Or hitting the sauna this weekend? The science is incredibly clear. The blueprint is right in front of you, and your heart is ready to get to work. Start small, stay consistent, and take back control of your biological clock. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And hey, here's to a younger, stronger heart.